Greetings. You're listening to the official Flourish Media podcast with Flourish Media founders Vivian Olodun and Dr. Tracy Timberlake. Listen in for marketing training and development tips from two ladies called the leaders in luxury learning. Get the tea on building a scalable, investor-ready business from the world's most accessible, women-focused business funding organization.
Welcome back to the Flourish Media Conference. I'm Dr. Tracy Timberlake, Vivian Olodun here. We're the co-founders of Flourish Media, the Flourish Media Conference, and Behind the Leaf. And in this episode, we want to talk about networking for the purposes of getting funding.
Oh, yeah. You know, when you're establishing that know, like, and trust factor, please know that there's literally money everywhere. There's money everywhere. I am a very proud first-generation American. My mother's from Panama. My father's from Nigeria. As a child of immigrants, and an immigrant myself, technically, because I was born in Germany, I am always blown away by how much money there is in the United States.
There is a lot. I mean, it's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because it's everywhere. It's a curse because people that look like us don't often get to be a part of those conversations. And one of our main missions at Flourish Media, both in our company but also just personally, is to get these conversations at the table of all the people who look like us, all of the marginalized communities who have been excluded from some of these table talks in the past, because there's so much opportunity. The reason why we haven't taken advantage of it is because we don't know about it.
Oh, yeah. It's like I just didn't know. Oh, I didn't know that I could. For example, when it comes to building your business in the United States, most people are doing it because they leverage their line of credit from their home or they use a credit card. And if you really if you start asking questions to these people who are prototypes in your industry, the leaders in your industry, they will tell you, oh, I mortgaged my house.
Yeah.
Oh, I used a credit card. I used 5 credit cards, and that's how I was able to do this. But when you have a plan, or when you come from people who look like us, that sounds crazy.
Yes.
It sounds banana nuts.
Yeah, because there's a stigma to there's a lot of different things, actually. Number one, if you have access to a mortgage, if you have access to credit cards, it sounds ridiculous to use it to fund a business. Like, that's, in our communities, that doesn't seem like wisdom. Although that's what many people are doing who do not look like us. That's number one. Number two, most people within our communities don't have those things, don't have a mortgage to leverage, and don't have credit cards that they can use, as funding for their business.
Yeah. So when it comes to being able to leverage networking, the first thing I think that's important is simply the peer learning of it all. It is very powerful to be in the same exact room of someone who is actively running $1 million business, someone who is actively fundraising, someone who is actively investing in other businesses, so that they can give you their mindset, so that you can borrow their expertise and also the audacity, the audacity that it takes to say, okay, this idea in my brain right now is worth it. I'm going to take that risk.
Yeah. And most people don't trust themselves enough to make that choice. And for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of generational stuff that we don't necessarily have to get into. But what you will learn when you are in these environments with the people who are making multi-millions or even billions in a lot of cases is that the mindset that they have around utilizing capital that is theirs and trusting themselves with it is just top notch. Like, you have to be able to trust yourself to make next level decisions if you're going to experience next level kind of business or next level kind of living. Being able to say, okay, I can trust myself, but with taking the $10,000 out of my house or using a credit card for $10,000 to grow my business is not one that we often do, because we've never really had access to that. We've never managed that kind of money, and we've certainly never managed that kind of money to fund a dream.
Oh, no.
Right? Like, if you had to feed a household, sure. But to fund dreams, that's not really conversations that many of us, people who look like you and me, have been privy to growing up. And so it seems crazy. But when you're in environments where that's the normal part of conversation, then you go, oh, it's actually not crazy. This is actually a very normal way to run a business, to do a business, to start a business, to grow a business.
Yeah. And so let's talk about where that exists, where people who look like us do it all the time. Education. Black women are the most educated demographic in the United States. They have a dense and very high level of experience in higher education. Almost all of us are utilizing grants, student loans, and family money in order to achieve that.
Yeah, and here's the reason why, based on my own research. The reason why is because society and our families have accepted that is a normal way to utilize funds, is to continue on the upper echelon ladder of education, right? It's a respected thing to do, whereas starting a business is not. So the stigma of utilizing $50,000 to start a business is very different than using $50,000 to get another master's degree that you probably don't need.
So let's dig into that a little bit, right? So you're Dr. Tracy Timberlake. You have degrees.
I do. I have many degrees, and Vivian has 4 degrees herself.
I do.
So as people who do have multiple different letters before and after our name, I value education. I still teach at a university. So I value it, but I value it not because it's the only way to get ahead or it's where everybody should be investing. I value it because I value education just in general. I like learning. I like teaching things, but I don't think it's the only way to learn, and I don't think it's the only way to become successful. I think that there are many different ways, and I think if you look at the trajectory of the next, let's say, 50 years to 100 years, you're going to find that education as it stands today, unless it changes, education as it stands today is just becoming more and more obsolete. We don't need more degrees. We do need people who are willing to take a chance on their genius, the genius that they already have, to start enterprises, even if it's just a part-time consultancy.
Yes, indeed. And because we understand our community, we know we're talking to highly educated people. We know that if you're listening to this podcast, most likely you've gone to college or have had some kind of area of expertise. You've been in your industry for a very long time. You have a corporate backing behind you. We don't need to tell you that you're good at this, sis. You really are. You're the bomb.com. But when we look at your industry, when we look at your corporate positioning and opportunities, is your bank account matching all the education that you have?
Right, because most people, and I'm not just talking about Black and brown people or women, I'm just saying most people in general, have no idea how to monetize an education. They know how to go down a path that was laid before them. You go to school, you get a job. They don't do that, but can you monetize it beyond it? And one of the best ways to do it is to learn how to earn through enterprise and entrepreneurship.
Yes, and so the big benefit, because we are talking to an educated audience, the benefit of going to college and participating in groups or fraternities, sororities, organizations, your church, your temple, whatever it may be, is the fact of all the people that you meet and the level of the people that you meet, and they become advocates for you. They become mentors for you. They become your clients and customers. We experience something when it comes to the Flourish Media Conference, and it's the fact that we watch people step into their greatness year after year after year. And with Behind the Leaf, the group that we started with now 8 years ago with the very first conference is the same group that we have now, except that person has elevated 8 years in also.
We love to see it.
Yes. And so that community has the ability to help one another. And so because we experienced that ourselves, because we've gone through higher ed, we've gone through academia, we have our own networks of people, and we've watched it happen, we know that being in the room, being able to make those relationships is transformative for the rest of your life.
And, the concept seems not real. Like, I think, it seems like it's a little sensational, like, oh, look at all these fun people that are having such a great time. But no, it's very real. And you really have to be in the room and in the environment to witness it.
Yes. And so as you are thinking about and utilizing this podcast so that you can have a great experience at the Flourish Media Conference, we want you to also think about all of the other opportunities that exist outside of the Flourish Media Conference. There are, and we're happy to see this, more and more conferences, networking opportunities, communities that exist to help you to elevate your brand. And I'm sure that there are industry communities, industry organizations that exist. And my hope for you is that after you attend the Flourish Media Conference, that you will grow your confidence in this type of networking.
Yeah.
Because not everyone can write a blog. Not everyone is going to have the freedom of time to attend every single networking event that exists. Not all of us are super present online. But when you have a rich and active, intentional community of people who understand what it is you're trying to achieve, who can advocate for you in all of their networks, that's what we mean when we say that growth happens in collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah. And your willingness to network is going to lead to those collaborations.
Yeah. And so as we're ending this podcast, I want to remind you that if you have an option between time and money all the time.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have the time to cultivate the relationships that are going to drastically change your life, you need to spend the money, honey.
Yes. Yes. And it goes back to the conversation around trusting yourself to spend money. Right? Like this is an investment, and it's important to look at it that way. Like, you're not buying just, a new pair of shoes that you were going to throw in the back of your closet. The money that you're spending to grow your business, to network at these different events, it is an investment. It's supposed to give you a return. But if you don't strategize that, then it's not going to. Like, if you're just buying everything and you don't know how to utilize it, then it's not going to give you a return. So the purpose is really to understand, how are these events, how is putting dollars and cents into networking in these environments going to give me a return on my investment down the road? It's not immediate necessarily. Usually it's not, but know that it is an investment.
Yeah. So as you're planning to attend the Flourish Media Conference, it happens every single February here in Miami, Florida, but we hope that it catapults you, it gives you the confidence, and gives you the ease, so that when you see the next industry event in March, April, May, June, November, that you are going to say, okay, I can listen to this podcast. I'm going to prepare how I'm going to show up at this event. I know exactly what I'm going to say. I know exactly what I'm going to bring. And me spending X number of dollars to go to this event, X number of dollars to be a part of this community, is going to be a great investment in the vision that I have, because I know what to do with it now.
Exactly. So, and listen to the other episodes too, because we talk about storytelling. We talk about, presenting yourself, pitching, social proof, all that stuff. It matters when you're going to some of these networking events. So listen to some of the other episodes if you haven't already, because it's there to help you.
All right. Stay connected with us. You can learn more about flourishmediaconference.com. At flourishmediaconference.com. And you can stay connected with us at Flourish Media Co. on all the things. If you haven't joined our private Facebook group, we invite you to do so. And if you're enjoying this conversation, make sure that you share it with other women business owners in your community and in your tribe. Thank you so much for listening.
See you next time. Bye.
Behind the Leaf. Never miss an episode, and subscribe to the official Flourish Media podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. If this podcast sparked your curiosity or made you think of a fellow creative who could really use these gems, share it and help them flourish too.